having are helping me better understand priorities, concerns, and ideas directly from people who are doing the work every day. So far, I've met with 3 Seattle City Council members, local school district leaders in both Renton and Seattle Public Schools, and I have met with community organizations that serve historically underserved populations. That includes groups like the Rainier Beach Action Coalition, the Silent Task Force, the Skyway Coalition, and the Tubman Health Center, among many others. Across these conversations, I'm hearing consistent themes. There's a strong desire to better serve and prepare our youth, making sure that young people can grow up safely in our communities and have access to opportunities that set them on a path towards success. There's also a clear need to continue expanding access to housing and to promoting home ownership for underserved communities. I'm hearing that people want to grow and age with dignity in the communities that they've called home for generations. And I'm also hearing about the importance of responsive government that includes things like participatory budgeting, improved transportation services, and making sure that county departments are accessible and accountable to the people that they serve. My goal is to continue meeting with groups and organizations throughout the year and throughout many sectors like health, education, art, safety, business, and many more. Throughout this year, I plan to host engagement opportunities that meet community needs in both incorporated and unincorporated areas, using the information that I learned from the listening tour. Increasing civic participation and access to county services is a big priority for me. So ultimately, the intent behind the listening tour and all of my community engagement is to ensure that it directly informs my policy work on the dais. I believe strongly that a legislator is only as effective as their relationship with the community that they serve. And so with that in mind, I want to spend some time talking about how the Commission on African American Affairs can be a partner with me in this work. So I understand that the Commission on African American Affairs was established by the governor, the legislature, and state agencies to advise on issues affecting the African American community and to advocate for policies that promote equity, improving access to services, and ensuring that the voices of African American communities are represented in decision making. I believe that there are several ways that we can work together. First, by sharing insight and data. The Commission has a deep understanding of statewide trends and disparities affecting African American communities. That perspective can help inform county policies so that they are grounded in lived experience and real outcomes. Whether we're talking about housing, health, education, or economic opportunity, your guidance can help shape policies so they better serve African American communities. A second way that you can help us is to help us strengthen engagement. You have strong relationships with community leaders and organizations across the region. Partnering on outreach efforts can help us reach more residents and ensure that their voices are included in county decisions. So if there are organizations or individuals that you believe we should meet with on my listening tour, please do let me know that. Don't hesitate to pass that information on to me. Third, the Commission can support accountability. As we implement programs and investments, it's important to track whether they really are making a difference. And I think the Commission can help us stay focused on outcomes and equity. If there are county services or functions that aren't meeting community needs, it's in my best interest to know so that I can bring them forward in my work. And finally, collaboration on priorities. Many of the issues you focus on, including youth development, economic opportunity, and access to services. Those are the same priorities that I'm hearing throughout District 2. So I see that there's a real opportunity for alignment and partnership between what we're doing in District 2 in King County and the commission. I want to make sure that my office is not only aware of the work that you're doing, but that we're actively connected to it. I see this as an ongoing relationship, not a one-time conversation. And perhaps more importantly, it's a relationship that is tied to the District 2 seat, no matter who serves after me. It's an honor for me to stand on the shoulders of the previous D2 council member, Larry Gossett. Larry was a longtime champion for African Americans in our Martin Luther King County. I hope to continue to build that foundation and advocacy for those who will represent D2 in the future. So with that, I will close by saying thank you again for the work that you do. The leadership and advocacy of the Commission on African American Affairs has made a difference across Washington state. That work is felt in our communities. Thank you again for your time today, allowing me to be here and take some of the time on your calendar, and I am happy to take any questions. I also have a member of my staff here to help track, follow up, and stay connected with you after this meeting. So with that, I will open the floor for questions.
So do we have any commissioners that
Chair,
have any questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to say, I want to thank the council member for her work on the reparative study funding for King County. Thank you. Also, congratulations on being the first African American council member elected to the King County Council. That's huge. Of course, I've known you for a long time, way back when you were in Tukwila. But it is good to see you, and it's good to see you in the seat that you're in now. And yes, please call on the commission at any time if you need our assistance.
I will do that for sure. And you know, I was talking earlier this week at the King County Council meeting, and we were talking about firsts. And you know, it's one thing to be a first, but it's another thing to make sure that there's room for a second and a third, and for people to come after the person who is the first. And so that's something that that I am committed to as well.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any questions from any other commissioners? Commissioner Vice Chair Bailey.
Hey, can folks hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I just want to echo what our executive director said. It's such a pleasure, and it's almost a beautiful way to end the week. We're talking a lot about first, and for full disclosure, I do work in government. I work in a particular county within Washington State. And I just so much appreciate everything that you shared here, and kind of want to touch back on the responsive government piece that you talked about. And as someone who has worked at the city level, at the state level, not just here in Washington State, but in Georgia and South Carolina, and as someone who is routinely in conversations with other departments that are geared towards helping community, what we often find is that, we spend a lot of time talking about community outcomes, but the internal philosophy of that department or agency, in particular, what they choose to focus on, who they choose to prioritize, that often dictates how effective an agency can actually be with disrupting disparities and things of that nature. So I'm curious to hear from you. I know there's a lot of change happening within King County. Different conversations happening with the 4Bs from the executive. What is your philosophy around how we can leverage this moment of change to recenter and refocus departments on the work of helping communities, being in communities, and also allowing community to dictate how we in fact move forward? I think that's a two-part question. It's, the actual work of the department, but also the internal work to kind of ensure that we ourselves are not perpetuating historical wrongs or institutional racism, there is an element of change that also has to happen internally for that work to be effective.
Thanks for those questions, Michael. That is, those are the $64,000 questions, aren't they? In terms of departments, I mentioned that I had worked with Councilmember Zahalai since he took office in 2020. And that work is something that we have been trying to, well, we've been working on that since day one, since 2020. You know, a lot of our staff at King County, I'll just say they have limited experience in terms of communities that are different than their own. And what I think we need to do is we need to do more being out in community, listening to community, more co-creation rather than, you know, here's what we're going to do. What do you think? You know, now we think we've gotten better at that. Well, I would say we have gotten better at it, but there's still a long way to go. A long way to go to recognize that communities have expertise. They know what's needed in their communities. They know the cultures, they know the people. And while we may have some technical expertise, there's still a lot of value in what we used to call mother wit. I mean, it's you know, there's some things that some of us just know instinctively, and so to put some value on that it's a quest that I'm looking forward to with the new executive, having had all those conversations over the past several years. The new executive making that a priority. You know, it's I've had a few meetings where I'm meeting with a county department on a particular project that they're kind of stumped on, and I'll say, well, I'm sure some other government has done this. I'm sure the city of Seattle or the city of Renton or some other city, some other county. Have you checked with them on how they've, you know, made it work? And, you know, I kind of get a blank stare a lot of times. And so I think we need some encouragement to come out of our King County shell. You know, we do a lot of things well, and we tend to think that we do everything well, and there's always room for improvement. The internal work, the personal internal work, that's a tough one. I mean, that's something that we've been working on for a long time. And which comes first, the action or the work? I've heard people say, well, you can act your way into believing a certain thing. So if you do the right things, sooner or later, you'll believe the right things. I'm not sure that's the answer, but if you find the answer, Michael, I would be very interested in having you share that with me. What I can say is it's a continual battle, it's a continual fight, it's a continual body of work, and that's something that as much effort as it can take, there's always more effort to be put into it. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
I 100% agree with everything that you shared. I don't know if I myself have the answer, but I'm
Mhm.
almost certain the folks who are doing the work, in addition to myself, do. And
Mhm.
I would encourage you to maybe request some information on the Black Women's Experience study that I believe is being conducted both at the state
Mhm.
level, but King County itself has actually done some phenomenal work in that space. And I know that there is a Black Women's Affinity group who is looking at
Mhm.
similar efforts and have a pretty robust report from what I'm told. So I'll
Mhm.
make sure that you get a copy of that and would love to continue the conversation offline as well.
Okay, great. That I would appreciate seeing that. That
Awesome.
was
Thank
done
you.
by the executive branch or the affinity group?
The affinity group, which is, I believe, made up of employees operating within King County, so
Mhm.
within the executive departments and kind of an array of different Black women across different departments.
Mhm.
Um, while it is aimed towards talking about the experiences of Black women, I think it also offer some insight on how Black men can also be supported. And depending on the type of department and the type of work, you see less and less folks of color in leadership
Mhm.
positions. And
Mhm.
I think it's just valuable information, especially as you continue to support King County.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'll find that and give it a read.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bailey. Councilmember Lewis, I do have one question. Given the key investment, and thank you and the council for making that key investment in the reparation study.
Mhm.
Um, I would like to get your perspective on what you hope to see this reparation study do for the state of Washington.
Okay. That's a great question, Joe. There are, I would say, three things that I hope the reparations study does. I hope it confirms what many of us already confirms and underscores and um, there's always people who are saying, where's the data? Where's the data? Where's the data? So I'm hoping that we get the data to go along with, our experiences and those experiences of our parents and grandparents and other relatives. So confirming what we know, number one. Number two, telling the story to those who haven't heard it. And I don't mean they haven't heard it with their ears. I mean, they haven't heard it internally. They haven't really heard it. They may have listened, but they haven't heard it. So I'm hoping that there's some enlightenment that comes from it, some realization, some aha moments. And then thirdly, I hope it spurs some action. I mean, the study is one thing, but what comes after the study. So I'm looking forward to some kind of policies on Black home ownership, Black business investment. Maybe there's a promise program for African American high school students that will help them go to college. I mean, I think there are a lot of things that can come to through the study that would be beneficial. The main thing, though, is action. I want to I look forward to some action coming from it.
Thank you so much. Excellent feedback, and I believe in the things that you are focused on as well, coming out of the reparation study, and I really resonate with not just hearing it with your ears,
Mhm,
um, where most people want to have a moral conversation, but
mhm,
deeply understand, like in your heart, like
mhm,
what it means to do reparative,
mhm,
to do this reparative study, and then what it means to actually do the repairing. So
mhm.
thank you so much.
Yeah. You're welcome, Joe. And I think one of the things that happens is, you know, um, people hear the results of studies like this, and they go on their guilt trip, their guilt and shame, and woe is me. Um, you can be cognizant of the wrongs of the past and recognize them, but shame and guilt is not what we're looking for. We're looking for benefit. We're looking for repair. We're looking for positive action. So I hope that that's a result, that we get a critical mass of people that can get past the shame and the guilt and move into supporting the action that we see that needs to be done.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from other commissioners?
So, Chair, I'm sorry, I have one more.
Okay.
And then, so I know that you guys are going to be, the council is going to be having the opportunity to approve the executive's appointment for different department heads, one of which is the Department of Community and Human Services.
Mhm, mhm.
What are you hoping to see in the candidate put forward to lead that department?
Oh, that's a good question. I would like to see a candidate that has some experience in leadership in a complex organization. And I want to see a candidate that has relationships, has been in relationships, and knows people directly, and not someone that's just hearing second and third hand, this is what this community needs, or this is what that community needs. I want somebody that's going to be, to use one of the executive's phrases, boots on the ground, going out, learning things firsthand, and then organizing their department and deploying resources where they're most needed, doing some triage. There are a lot of things that the county does that, maybe those things aren't relevant anymore, or, conditions have certainly changed. In a program that we started 30 years ago, how effective is that? And, a lot of programs we've based success on numbers of people served rather than are those people better off. And so those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for, is someone who is committed to, real improvement for all communities in King County, and has the wherewithal to make that happen.
I have definitely heard the executive mention boots on the ground more than once.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Estes.
Well, thank you so much for inspiring us as we continue this process. And I appreciate all the hard work you've done and the hard work that's coming forward. So thank you. It was motivating.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm just really pleased to be here today, to have you see my face, associate a name with a face, so that when I call you for help, you'll know who you're talking to. Is there anything else I can offer?
Just one last thing for me. I was so glad to see you appointed to that role. I know that I worked in the city of Tukwila. I know about the amazing work you did there before I got there. And I know the amazing work you did at the county when you became part of the county's executive team. And I know the great work you did with Council Member Zahalai as his chief of staff. So because you've done so much in the past, we're expecting so much more from you. So for the future. So I'm so glad that you're in that position.
All right. Thank you so much. That's great to hear. Thank you, Joe.
Yep. All right. Anybody else before we let our King County Council member go? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you. You know
Councilmember.
how to find me if you need anything. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
So we're a little early, but I do see Director Matthews here already. So Director Matthews, are you okay to jump in and have a conversation with us?
Mr. Chair,
Uh-huh.
I might have to put a timer on Director Matthews.
Oh, that's messed up. That's messed up, Executive Director. Before she even gets started.
She knows I love her. I just had to give her a hard time.
That's a good one. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. It's a pleasure to be with you. My name is Megan Matthews. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the newly confirmed Director of Washington State's Office of Equity out of the Governor's Office. So I am really thrilled to share that change with you. And I do have some slides, and I will share my screen if that way. Oh, can I share my screen, or do you want to pull the slides, Kiana?
Yes, I'm happy to run them for you if you would like.
Okay, that's fine with me. Thank you. That'll keep me on time, Ed.
Was said out of love. You know that.
I know. I'm so happy. I don't see your screen yet, or I don't see the slides yet.
Is it up now? It says it's sharing and it's,
Maybe it's me.
oh, I just got the
there
little
we
orange
go.
square. Are we good? Okay.
There it is. Yeah. Okay, we'll go to the next slide, please. So I always like to share a little bit of information about me. I am born and raised Tacoma, Washington. I was born right at TG, Tacoma General, and I graduated from Lincoln High School. I come from a family that didn't have a lot of money, but we had a lot of love, care, laughter. I came from a generation of that said, where your parents told you to work hard, get good grades, go to college, you get a good job. And so I, played sports. We're virtual, so but I'm tall, 5'11", so I played volleyball and basketball. I worked part-time, helped take care of my younger siblings, as many older siblings can relate to. And I had a 3.91 GPA. And when it came time to go to college, I was like, well, how do you go to college? What do you do? Do you like, what are the steps? How do I get there? I don't know. Do you call somebody? Do you show up on the campus? How do you know what the campus is? And a teacher, a couple of my teachers helped me navigate that process. They showed me some schools. We went on some college trips, helped me do the college application and the tuition fee waivers, because you have to pay to apply to college, which was a barrier for me. And so that's how I was able to go to college. And I like telling that story because to me, that is what equity is about. It's about really having the access. So we like to talk about how we should have meritocracy and it should be hard work. Well, my hard work would have got me a good GPA, but I wouldn't have went to college because I didn't know how. And so you can't have a true meritocracy without true access. And so that is the lens that I bring. And when we talk about access, we can talk about the historic exclusions, the systematic exclusions, and things like that. All that is relevant. But I like to talk about it as an access to the opportunities and power and resources, which is a part of our mandate. I've also been a state employee for 18 years now. I started in an entry-level position as a child support case manager, and I've worked my way up over the years. That has given me a really unique perspective into the ways that government works, the things that we do well, and the things that we need to change to really, truly serve all Washingtonians in a fair way. Next slide, please. So the Office of Equity, our vision is that everyone has full access, there's that access word, to the opportunities, power, and resources they need. And our statute is quite long, but what I like to say is that our job is really to facilitate policy and systems change. And that means that we are here to structurally change the way that government operates. And I heard the last part of the conversation with the city council member, King County, and I relate to that. How do you really make the change? How do you really change from inside? And it's really the structure. It's really the root cause. It's the stuff that ain't pretty or flashy. It's the hard work. And that's what our office is here to do. And so I wanted to just make that little connection there. Next slide, please. So a little bit of history about our office. We're still a pretty new office. There was a task force that produced a report. I think maybe Ed was a part of that task force. Thank you very much. And the report led to the foundation of our statute. In 2020, there was legislation, but in 2020, it was the beginning of COVID. So we were established with 0 FTEs. So we were in name only. And in 2021, our first team members were hired. We were an office of 3, and that's when Dr. J, who was our first director, was hired. And since then, I joined the office in April of 22 under Dr. J, and then I became the interim director in May of 2023. And today we are an office of about 40 people. So we're a lot larger. We are the largest equity office in the nation. I think as last time I checked with Colorado, we check in quite often, and they're the next largest with an office of 7. And so, I'm very proud that Washington State has invested in our office. We are also situated in statute, with which many agencies across this nation are either established through executive order or through the governor's own priorities. And we know that as governors change, or as tides in culture in the nation change, right, that can lead to some big swings. And because we're in statute, it's really protected us from some of the changes that can happen. We're also one of the offices that are established in the governor's office. There's pros and cons to that. Other offices are established or operate in their HR department. And so, that gives them a little bit of invisibility and safety from some of the politics. But when you're talking about, Michael, how do you really make change? Our ability to connect with legislators, speak with the governor's team, and really work across the enterprise really allows us to influence and more influence the way that we change, the way that we drive change forward. Next slide, please. I like sharing. Oh, you got the little, I think I'll see a little slot on the slide. It's covering up a couple people's faces, but when it's mine, that's okay. I like sharing a picture of our team. So I haven't really done the research. That's perfect. Thank you. I haven't done the research, but I would venture to say that we're probably the most diverse office in the state. But like I said, I haven't done it. So, challenge me if you know of another one. For an office of our size, we really are a diverse team. So there's a lot of diverse characteristics that you can see with your eye. We are diverse racially. We have some gender diversity. But there's a lot that's not seen. So we've got veterans, people with different immigration status, LGBTQ, religious and spiritual backgrounds as well, and geographic representation, because I hear from Central and Eastern Washington a lot that us over in Western Washington don't pay them any attention and they don't really have a voice. The goal for me was to make sure that if we were really going to be the Office of Equity and we were going to change government structures in a way that advanced fairness for everyone in Washington, that we really needed to reflect the beautiful diversity in Washington State. And I'm really, really excited about what we've done. And we did this without metrics and goals or like quotas or anything like that. And so I'm just really impressed with, we do have some gaps, but I'm really impressed with our representation as it stands today. Next slide, please. So the first thing that was really important to me, or one of the things that was really important to me, is plain talk. I've heard it said in some, I think in a newspaper or something like that from community members, they were like, we want government to talk normal. Oftentimes government isn't accessible because of the language we use. We use a lot of acronyms, we use a lot of academic terms, and in the equity world, that is like throughout. A lot of the terms we use are based in academic knowledge because we get a lot of our best practices from literature and the academic world. However, that is not how people talk. There's a way that I talk with my family. As the first person who graduated from a four-year school, the rest of my family, who maybe haven't graduated from post-secondary education, don't talk the way that we talk in government. And in fact, I carry a story with me closely when I went to the soul food restaurant in Tacoma, and the owner, I known him for years, and he was like, so what are you up to now, girl? What you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm an equity, diversity, inclusion specialist. Now, this was years ago before I came to the Office of Equity. And he was like, you a what? And I can't tell you how embarrassing it was for me because I struggled to even explain it, right? I had used here's how we define it and all the things internally, but we never really talked about how we actually talking to the people we say we're trying to help. And so he told me in love, yeah, you're gonna have to work on that because we don't talk like that. He was absolutely right. Sometimes, especially in the world we're in right now, we think that by changing our language, we're doing it to capitulate to the tides right now. But I've been wanting to do this since before then, because I really want to be able to talk to people who I want to help without the need to onboard them and introduce them to a certification or some sort of glossary and all of that. I just want to talk how people talk. We want government to talk normal. And so a lot of the work that we've been doing internally since after we did our big hiring push was really to talk about how are we talking in a way that talks with people, not to them, not at them. We want to be a government of, by, and for the people. How can we do that if we can't even communicate with them? Next slide, please. The second thing we believe is that government should work for everyone. Our policies and processes and procedures, they should not create access for some and barriers for others, right? So through the one-size-fits-all approach that we create, everybody has to follow this process. Well, not everybody can navigate that process. Everybody has a different need or is situated differently. And so we have to have a different process that meets that need. And no matter where I am in Washington State, I hear from Washingtonians that the state's processes are complicated. We don't know which agency to go to. You can't go to one agency and necessarily complete a whole complicated process, and the wait times and the technology and yada, yada, yada. And so I'm really challenging our colleagues to think critically, but also creatively, and really work with people to understand how they are uniquely experiencing challenges and target solutions appropriately. And so we use the concept, I don't speak it, when I'm saying when I'm out and about with people, but we use the concept of target universalism that was established by John A. Powell of the Othering and Belonging Institute. So we like to say equity for us means that we're advancing a Washington for all. That's how we talk about equity in our team. Next slide, please. So Washington for all, and it starts with the data. So we have our impact areas that we initially got from King County. So King County had determinants of equity. We love that. And I've continued that on. We just use it now as our impact areas. Here are the areas we're trying to change. We've got a team who is working on dashboards, establishing dashboards in these areas that are listed above or on the screen. And we have a hub site we created in response to requests from community members from a centralized place for resources. We have resources targeted for the immigrant and refugee population, for the LGBTQ, and then people with disabilities. And as we continue to get more and more resources, we're creating more categories. We don't have to be the entity that creates everything, but folks want to be linked, and they said they need to be linked at the state level. And so we provide that link where we can say, here, go to this organization for these resources, go to this organization for these resources. And so that's kind of how we're advancing that. Because in our statute, we're also explicitly called out in our statute to bring accountability to government. So data is a main space for that, but that's not the only space, right? Because there's a lot of data out there. I mean, I feel like we've dated ourselves, through the roof sometimes. But where's the accountability, right? Where is the change that is sparked from that? Well, in the state government, the holders of that accountability are the legislature, who established our budget, and the governor, who hires and fires directors and leaders. And so we're really working with some of the conversations I've had with legislators last year, and in the interim last year, was about what would it look like to really inform you all? They don't read reports, right? They're really busy during session, and outside of session, they got jobs. They may be campaigning, all the different things. They don't have time to read all our reports all the time. And so for me, I'm like, what would it look like to truly inform you so you could make decisions and hold agencies accountable through the budgets you allocate for us, right? And for the governor, well, he's much closer to me. So, but really it's about, how do I give you what you need to make assessments on hold your leaders accountable for their outcomes. And so we're still developing that. But for me, that's what's really driving me. How do we really begin to influence what agencies are doing through real outcomes? And how do we publicly share what we're doing in our outcomes with community members, organizations, legislators, and the other folks who can also, through their voting, through their advocacy, communicate their satisfaction or dissatisfaction with how the state is operating. Next slide, please. So I wanted to give you some examples of our current work. So in addition to the kind of the systems change behind the scenes type things, roots that we're working on, we are doing some other work. So we are working on our supplier diversity and contracting fairness. So we have, we actually started this a couple of years ago, but we had, the election, we new governor, new leaders. And so there was some time that we needed to wait to give some of the new leaders some time to get their footing. But we started putting that group together. We're working with DES, Department of Enterprise Services, the Office of Financial Management, OFM, OMWE, the Office of Minority Business, Women's Business Enterprises, and really working on, what is our supplier diversity? What are our numbers? What is our, how do we make our processes fair for small businesses and micro businesses to fairly compete for contracts? Because I've heard, from all small businesses that it's really hard to put in bids at the state level. The pay, the time it takes us to pay is a hardship. The reporting requirements are a hardship. And so we're really working on that system. We're also working on the state's hiring processes. So we worked with OFM and DES to draft and worked with the governor, and Inslee signed these executive orders 2404 and 05 on creating more opportunities in our hiring processes just generally. And then 2405 is creating more fair hiring and employment conditions for people with disabilities. So when we talk about systems change, the way that I operate is we're de-siloing the system. We are going to be collaborating with other entities who have the ability to create policies. They're mandated for different bodies of work and to change the way that we are doing business. In the hiring, we're pushing Washington State to do competency-based hiring. We're moving away from requiring 2- and 4-year degrees, requiring certain certifications, right? Even in the equity space, we would say, we desire a CDE or a CDP or some other certifications. The problem with that is those things are $1,500, $5,000 a piece. People can't afford that. And when the state offers that, we offer it usually to executives, and it's not offered to, line staff who are interested. And so we think about those barriers that people have. And, as somebody who grew up in a family that didn't have a lot of money, anything that costs money is a barrier. And so while we don't want to say that if you have a degree, as a person with a degree, I don't want to say that it doesn't matter. But with my degree, I should be able to explain why I have the qualifications for a job. It shouldn't be that just because I have the degree, I'm qualified for the job. And so we're really excited about some of the ways we're driving change in Washington State. This year, we also added 2 equity competencies so that every position that gets hired in the state from now on has to include 2 equity competencies, because I no longer want to have the conversation about why we need to do equity work. And I don't want to put people through all the training and then we have turnover and now somebody's new in there, we got to start all over again. Training is good, but we cannot rely on training as the avenue that's going to drive change. And so we're working on our metrics for this right now. And I'm excited to begin, really reporting out, having agencies show what they've done and moving that forward. And I think we are beginning to see that where other agencies are like, yeah, okay, this is how we could do it. This is how we could measure. This is how we could move it forward, and driving that change over time. I don't know if you all who are working in local governments have noticed that sometimes when we have our executive orders or your leader directives and things like that, we're all busy. Agencies are busy. People are working, hard all day. And if there's something new, it's like, well, do we have time to do that? Nah, okay, well, let's put them on the back burner, and things don't actually get done. And so for us, we have to put in those accountability mechanisms and then be the reinforcers to make sure we're driving that change forward. We're also working on the immigration sub-cabinet. So that was established in Executive Order 2509, signed by Governor Ferguson. And we are using that as a way that we can connect and coordinate across the state. We're still putting all the coordination together, but we are excited that even this last session, we were able to communicate with legislators and elevate some of the requests that are coming from community members. and really working on the data privacy, data concerns. We are doing a data audit of all the state's data to understand what are we collecting, why are we collecting it, are we sharing it, who are we sharing it with, why are we sharing it, and really reviewing our processes to make sure that we can do our best to protect Washingtonians, especially when we are mandated the collection of their information. We should be able to say why, and in a time right now, maybe stop sharing that information. We are excited because we drafted language access legislation that Representative Self Ortiz sponsored and dropped herself, and that just passed the legislature, and the governor's planning on signing on Monday. Very excited about that. That will, the Office of Equity will be mandated to establish language access guidelines to help bring some consistency to the so that when people are coming to the state, they can expect a level of consistency across language access, their ability to request information in other languages, how we share information, and making sure we're being consistent about the languages we're sharing information in. It also includes interpreters. We know there's been a shortage, and more. We're also working on data disaggregation. So we know that, communities are not a monolith, but when we have our kind of simpler categories, it treats communities as they are so. And so we're working with other state agencies like OFM and WATEC on data disaggregation as well. Hope to have some guidance out this year. We talked about data and accountability through our dashboards, and working with other agencies, because a lot of the information we have, we don't have to rely necessarily on what the federal government is doing. We have a lot of information ourselves. And so really working to coordinate and share information internally, and produce those dashboards so we can begin, seeing what is the current state of the state. Communications. So government, from what I hear, is that we are not good at communicating. We, communicate through listservs or websites that people have to know it's there to go find it. And so really working on how can we communicate where people are and how they speak the language that they use. And so we're really trying to establish that and establish our own presence. So we have social media, and we're working to grow that. I told my communications team, I want to be able to communicate with everybody in Washington. So that's a big goal, but I think it's important because there's a lot of gaps across the state. And then our own internal structure. So we've grown really fast. When I took over as director, I was exhausted. We were like a team of 5, 6, or 7. We had done a ton of work. There's a ton of need, but this work will bring it out. And so this is not it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. We needed more help. And so we have been growing, we grew, and now we're creating our, structures and our processes and adapting as we learn what works and what doesn't work, but really solidifying our structure so that we can be more effective and impactful. Next slide, please. And then that's it. Look, connect with us. Here's all the ways you can connect with us. So feel free to share these slides. I like including links so that you all can go to where you need to on your own. But yeah, that's it. Any questions? I think I did good, Ed. What you think?
You did fantastic.
Yay.
Mr. Chair, can I add a brief question?
First, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you. Megan, thank you so much for coming and presenting to the commission. I really do appreciate it. A lot has been done in the short time that the Equity Office has been established, but I know it has not always been easy. How have you navigated some of the barriers that you've had to encounter?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. Well, one, and I really should have said this during my presentation, is the biggest barrier that I had to overcome was, well, I guess maybe one of them, was this idea that, the Office of Equity was here to eliminate the commissions. And I don't know about you, but I truly believe that this work that we're all doing takes many hands. And we need more resources, not less. Structural racism, structural oppression will not go away with the work of a few. I actually look forward to building our network and our collaboration and partnership across all the systems. You know, we've got local government, private sector, philanthropy, nonprofit, where we all play a role in the system. And so it's not just the state that needs to de-silo. But I'm so grateful for the commissions and your support. Ed, been on the phone many times. And so really how we, navigated that fear, right? It's a fear. The commissions have been around for a long time. And now you've got this big Office of Equity coming in, and what's going to happen. And how we've kind of navigated is the Office of Equity exists through the work that we've shared on the last slide, that we're here to drive change in the state government. And we do interact with community members, but I really look to the commissions as the experts in that population they serve. And so we worked with Ed, we work with the Commission on Hispanic Affairs, we work with the Commission on Asian and Pacific American Affairs, the LGBTQ Commission, the Women's Commission. We work with Goya, who's the governor's office on Indian Affairs, and then we work with some of the committees and things, because there's some communities that don't have a commission, like the veterans and disability communities. I rely on those entities as how do I effectively work with agencies to address the need with this population? The Immigration Subcabinet has given us a really great example of what that can really look like. In that subcabinet, we have 3 subcommittee groups. One is the Immigrant Refugee, who's led by the Commission on Hispanic Affairs and the Commission on Asian and Pacific American Affairs. We have one for the disability community, that's led by the Governor's Committee on Disability Issues and Employment and the Department of Services for the Blind. And then we have the LGBT community, who is led by the LGBTQ Commission. And that has been beautiful, because now Megan doesn't have to worry about trying to go out and get trust and build trust and relationships with community members and all of that. I can say, hey, y'all are already the trusted messengers, right? I will get the agencies, right? Y'all make sure you're building the community voice as well. And then we bring it together. And so that's really how I view that. And that's how we've been able to talk about it and demonstrate it in a real practical way. But that has been a barrier. Also, I would say my own story. So I, coming from the background that I have, I see folks who look like me in leadership roles. Sometimes they come from middle class or upper class. And that's a whole different culture than me, because I grew up on Lil Jon and all of them. Okay, that's me. And I never really necessarily saw that reflected. I didn't know anybody who was a director when I was growing up. And I never really saw or believed that I could be a director. And so it was really a mental barrier for me, thinking that I couldn't do the job, and I needed a lot of support. So Jamila, who's Governor Inslee's chief of staff, and Kelly, who was the deputy chief of staff, really worked with me a lot and gave me a lot of support, and really helped me get to the place where I'm like, oh, I can do this. Oh, I am doing this. And then the state is just massive. The state's big. There's 75,000 state employees. So when we talk about driving systems change and de-siloing, it's a huge challenge. And so for me, I really kind of think about what can we do? And we have, while we're the largest office, 40 to 75,000 is like a drop in the bucket, right? And so I really have to think about, how can I be intentional with the resources we have been given? How can I drive the most impact? And then how can I work with other partners so that we're not doing it all? We can be the convener, we can be the coordinator, but we're not always the doer of everything. And so those have been some of the barriers and some of the ways that I have been able to navigate those. And really, for me, one other thing is, I'm a bureaucrat. I didn't really grow up in the game of politics. I don't really understand all of that. So it was a sharp learning curve for me over the last 3 years to really get more familiar with the legislature and how politicians operate, and building those relationships with them and building that trust with them as well.
Thank you. One quick question for me. When I think about, so in my day job, I'm a deputy city manager for the city of Bellevue, and one of the teams that's in my portfolio is our diversity advantage team, and they have done some amazing work in creating a diversity advantage plan that has all these strategic objectives that are connected to the city's strategy areas, or strategic target areas. And then they've asked departments, as part of those 41 objectives that align to those strategic target areas, to create actions of how they can move diversity, equity, inclusion forward for the community of Bellevue. So my question is, I see the areas that you're focused in on, and I see the work that you are accomplishing right now. Is there a plan to, because I believe in what you're saying, the Office of Equity isn't responsible for going out and trying to execute diversity, equity, inclusion across the organization and the state. It's too small to do so. But then how are you pushing the different departments within the state to do the good work, to be an extension of what the Office of Equity can accomplish?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one, we're driving the work that we're doing through our metrics and reporting. The agencies have to report to us, and then we share out. But the work internally in these agencies, I started meeting monthly with all of the equity leaders in every agency. And we just had a conversation about, how can I help maybe provide some more cover or provide some more support by speaking with the agency director or leader, and giving them that support, because sometimes the equity lead for the agency is, reports to either the HR or reports somewhere else. And, I'm sure that you have experience, if you're working in the local government, that, every level within an agency, you kind of lose more of the visionary thinking sometimes, and you move towards a more implementer mindset. Well, the work of equity and really systems change really requires that visionary level of thinking. And so really, how do we connect? How do we make sure the equity person is connected to the agency head? And so I was just typing up some notes about how I can organize and start sharing with some of these equity leaders around what are the expectations, what are they going to be mandated to do, and what are our reporting. And then also thinking, for me, how do we do more reporting, and asking them to share back to us in a real way to gain and make sure agencies are doing some of this work internally, especially in an environment that is hostile to equity, a federal environment that's hostile to equity, and we want to make sure that, one, we're giving agencies the cover to continue doing this work forward, and then also holding them accountable for making sure that they're doing it. So that is kind of the next step that I will be doing, is working more closely with the agency leaders. They're really supportive. So I'm very lucky. I feel like we're very lucky to live in Washington State. All of our leaders are really supportive. Now I just need to organize it more intentionally and start sharing with them in that way.
Thank you.
Good. Megan, I tell you, it's good to hear this and today. I just picked up a book yesterday, and it's by Tina Brown McNair, and it's called From Equity Talk to Equity Walk. And I'm getting ready to read that book, and I just picked it up yesterday. And so that's good to see this and hear this today, so I can get more educated.
Yes, that's the thing for me. It's it's a lot of talk, and I was a little frustrated in the beginning of 2025, when there was a flurry of executive orders around DEI and eliminating DEI from the federal government. And people, I started seeing the narrative and, what folks were talking about. And it was like, okay, how do we change the language? What's the new acronym? What do we call this again? And let's talk about what this should be. And I said, you know what? To the people who are hurting right now, the people who are scared right now, They don't care what you call it. They just want you to do something. And sometimes we spend a lot of time having conversations and talking and talking. Oh, somebody should, maybe somebody should. And it's like, well, what can you do in your role, in your position, in your space, in your power? Yes, it's scary, right? You know, you're taking risks, and that means you may lose your job. That means there's all that. But I don't know about you. I feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of people who came before me. And I tell people in our office, I said, the road towards justice is paved with the blood. I cannot stand and sit in the position that I'm in right now and wait for somebody else to tell me it's okay to do what we need to do, because we never move forward that way, right? And so I like that. I might have to look up that book myself and say, well, okay, well, what's the walk? Let's see what the walk is. And I hope that through the work that we do in our state, because there's a lot of states who want to do this work, but aren't in as supportive of an environment. And so because we're plain talking, because we're trying to use more normal language, it's also giving them an opportunity to keep moving that work forward. And so the work that we're doing in our state is serving as a model, or serving as a resource that people in other states can pull and use to keep doing the work too.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioner have a question for Director Matthews? If not, going once, going twice. All right, thank you, Director Matthews. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. It's good to see you again, Joe. Good to see you, Ed
see
and
you.
Charlotte. And I think I've seen everyone here before, so it's a great time to be with you all again. Appreciate you, and happy to come back anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Matthews. Mr. Chair, our next presenter is not going to be on for about 10 minutes. Do you
Yeah, I
want
was
to
thinking
allow
we could go
people to
back
do
to.
oh yeah, we've got well, we can't. My Vice Chair Bailey just stepped away.
Did he step away? Oh, okay. Well, that's
Do
fine.
you want to allow folks? He said he'll be back. He just had to take a quick call. Do you want to allow
Yeah.
folks to take a bio break?
Yeah. Please do if you must. I'm kidding. Yeah, it's good for folks to take a bio break. So we can come back in 10.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Executive Director Prince, I had to drop off and I just rejoined. Are we on break right now?
Yes, we are taking a quick 10-minute bio break.
Okay.
We'll be back shortly.
Returning at 2:30 or sooner?
I think 2:25, 2:30.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, are you back and ready to reconvene?
Yes, I am.
All right. Our
All
next
right.
presenter is here.
Oh, my favorite. So we are at the
Mine as well.
2026 legislative session wrap up, and we have the amazing, doesn't need a presentation of who she is to what we do, the amazing Paula Sardinas. So, Paula.
Good afternoon, everybody. Paula Sardinas with FMS Global Strategies and the founder and owner of the Washington Build Back Black Alliance. We just completed our session for 2026, and let me just tell you, it was probably one of our most difficult and challenging legislative sessions we've had in a while. We entered the session knowing that we would turn over about 40% of the legislature, which meant we saw and had 6 to 7 retirements in the Senate. We're expecting that number and more in the House with a $15 billion budget deficit, and some edicts from the governor's office around whether or not we were going to be a legislature that paid for those deficits through raising revenue and cuts. And so the governor delivered kind of a multifaceted budget, which we were proud to champion. And so talking about some of the things that happened this past legislative session, this is a biennial session, so this is the supplemental. What that means for the people listening in is that the session begins in 25 with a supplemental budget, with the regular budget, the biennial budget, and we finish in the next year. Any bill that was introduced in 2025 can be carried over to 2026, and then you make small adjustments to the 2026 budget. Our budget, just to give you a point of reference, was about $39 billion 10 years ago. The combined budget for this biennium is $82 billion. So I say that to say that while we continue to say we have a $15 billion budget deficit, we've doubled our budget and doubled our spending, yet we still don't seem to have enough money for our essential programs. 1,392 bills introduced, 286 crossing over to the governor's desk. And so from an African-American vantage point, because we are the African-American Commission, what did we do this session? So I think we can't talk about our successes without talking about the things that are going to have an impact to us. So when we think about education and those bottom lines, we saw this particular budget take cuts to K through 12 education. We saw this particular budget take cuts to ECAP. We saw this particular budget take cuts to Medicaid and Medicare. Those things are important because those things, without question, have a huge impact on the Black community. We saw Running Start take a cut. And when we say cut, higher education, $85.6 million in reduction in funding to UW. When we say cuts, childcare funding for things like ECAP, in the big picture, overall, there was $781 million in budget cuts and reductions across this $80 billion budget. K through 12 education, by example, took a negative $80 million cut. The equity impacts means that it's going to be harder for us to close those achievement gaps. It's going to be harder for us to focus on those under-resourced schools and the disproportionate discipline rates, which is some of the things that you guys work on here at the commission. So we're still fighting to make sure we have equitable funding. And that brings us to, so what did they work on, Paula? What were some of the highlights? Well, as I said, going into this wasn't a very good session year. They touted the millionaire tax, a tax on the top earners. That means if you make $1.1 million or more, they would tax, 9.9% of income over $1 million. This has been represented and packaged as a way to adjust our regressive tax system. The way that we view this through the lens of equity is that if you don't earmark those dollars to cover things like childcare, to cover the Black male achievement gap, to cover housing, then it just goes to general revenue and Senate Bill 6346. And we'll be fighting two things: the constitutionality of this bill, because for 100 years, Washington has fought and voted against an income tax. And number two, where are the dollars actually situs? So we are not sure what the equity impact of this is, because you won't even realize any of these dollars until around 2030. So it does not provide, and I quote, it does not provide any immediate economic relief at gas going up 80 cents a gallon and the things that Black and brown people are facing today. Some of the other things that they worked on was unemployment insurance for striking workers, provides up to 6 weeks of unemployment benefits for workers when they go on strike. This was a big priority for the unions, and they wanted to get to that. Over the biennium, we've tackled things like rent stabilization. We've tackled things like children, youth, and behavioral health, providing those additional wraparound supports. This bill has also been delivered to the governor's desk. Transportation and bonding, for you all's edification, a tremendous portion of the Black and Brown contracts that are awarded in Washington State come from WashDOT. So we were heavily invested in protecting that budget because they do have an Office of Civil Rights and Equity, which does a lot of funding for Black and Brown businesses. Senate Bill 6355, electric transmission system, focuses on modernizing Washington's grid. Again, this is critical for the long-term climate goals, especially in low-income areas, making sure that we are siting and putting in those charging stations, which are free, and low-income areas, places where you have healthcare, childcare centers, and multifamily housing. 6260, public education and system changes, making sure that we are implementing efficiency and program changes. Lisa Wellman, I believe, brought that bill. That becomes important because if you're going to do cuts, then you have to also make sure that there are efficiencies in the system so that your poorest, Blackest, and brownest students don't bear the brunt and the impact. I think for us, the biggest achievement for us as a Black community was that we were able to codify the CRP grant, House Bill 2523, carried by Rep. Christine Reeves, and that bill signing is Monday at 10 if you all want to join us. And that's important because CRP has received $310 million since its implementation in 2022. It is the largest grant ever codified in Washington State. And what we've established is it provides the mechanism for us then to go in and to appropriate the funding with a targeted goal being no less than 100 million, but there is no ceiling for the amount that we can appropriate because now it is a permanent grant with 8 permanent buckets. We made some additional tweaks to make sure that we strengthen workforce development and that we also did more of a statewide outreach for diversion types of programs so that if you are in, let's say, Spokane and you do a certain type of work, you don't have to be cited to King County because this is not a localized grant, it is statewide. And we changed the oversight of the grant back to the Office of Equity, and we restored the LATs, which are the local area teams that would have input on how this money is spent. It was very important, as we heard from community, to return the community oversight because folks didn't necessarily trust the Department of Commerce. So we wove that into the fabric of the bill. Our mask bill, which was led by Senator Javier Valdez, makes sure that federal agents cannot require wear a mask in sensitive spaces. The governor signed that bill at El Centro de la Raza yesterday. That was really, really important. We had 5 or 6 of what I would call ICE protection bills. A lot of times we'll say that and folks will assume we're just talking about the Latino community or sister community, but ICE is starting to target Africans and African Americans. So don't think because they're not knocking on your door that it can't happen to you. Worked on some economic justice and workforce bills to make sure that we're not misclassifying the trades, that there's collective bargaining for student workers and workforce access expansion. And that's the eligibility for public safety jobs. Did a lot of policy under housing and wealth building. Again, making sure that we did some of the tweaks on what is required under the rent stabilization, the nonprofit housing exemption, and just, some smart tenant protections. Worked on some of those bills. Health and Human Services, making sure that women continue to have access to reproductive care, that there's substance use monitoring expansion as we're watching the use of fentanyl take up, and that we provided funding for our rural emergency hospitals. I want you to think about Centralia, Cadillac, which is out in the Tri-Cities. A lot of their funding was cut under the Trump administration. And we had a bill brought to us by some youth. And so we did some expansions of mental health services for our young people to expand that peer-to-peer counseling. Special education transparency, we made improvements in childcare and statewide food insecurity, which was carried also by Representative Christine Reeves, who's chair of our Black Caucus, and foster care provider flexibility, which supports transition pathways for caregivers. Did a little cleanup around public safety, which is our firearm backgrounds checked, and a lot of stuff to protect our voter integrity, which we think will be under assault this election cycle as we watch perhaps a swing in power on the federal level. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions you all may have. I see you, Stacy. I see you. See that look on your face?
I did have a question, Paula.
Mr. Chair.
Can you talk more about bringing back the advisory for the CRP?
Yes, we had been in consultation, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. So we had been in consultation with the African American Commission, as well as a lot of community members. Over 900 people registered for the Buy-in For grant. And what we had heard from community was the dismantling of the community groups, which provided oversight into how the money was being utilized, was just demonstrably unfair. And that community wanted their voices elevated, that they had a lot of trust in their Commission on African American Affairs. But most importantly, those LATs come from each different region, Pierce County, Snohomish County, and they are trusted leaders with lived experience within community. And to dismantle that and to have one or two people in the Department of Commerce basically deciding how $100 to $200 million was going to be spent was not tenable for me. But what I was told was, because I had secured the money as a proviso, there wasn't much the governor's office or Commerce could do, because it's a contracting matter. So unless you codified it into law that specifically said that you had to have LATs or you had to have a certain type of oversight, once the money gets to Commerce, they can do what they want. So one of the reasons we brought the bill is we wanted to codify into law, no, you cannot dismantle the LATs. You have to have community oversight. It is an equity issue. The oversight has to go back to the Office of Equity, because we don't want to play three-card Molly. We don't want to tell community we're getting something for them, and then we get the money and say, thanks, community, we'll take it from here. That's dishonest and disingenuous, Mr. Chair. So we restore community trust.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Vice Chair Bailey.
Hey, happy Friday, and thank you for the update and for joining us today. I'm curious, as we exit this legislative session, do you have any recommendations on conversations that we should start over the summer? I recognize that at this point in the year, there's an opportunity for state agencies, commissions to begin offering agency request legislation to perhaps continue conversations or to do technical cleanup bills on legislation that was passed. Curious to get your take on that. And then two, if you could provide more information on the bill signing, I'd love to potentially attend if calendars permit.
I will drop that in there. The bill signing, so let me go backwards. The bill signing will be Monday morning. It'll start at 10 a.m. At the governor's office, at his conference room. We would be honored to have as many members of the African American Commission attend, because this is an African American win. I will send it out to Chair Todd and Mr. Prince. But I could not think of a group that I would be prouder to be standing there with the bill signing with the governor. And to your question, what I've always loved about the commission is that you all have a territory, right? And so you're able to meet with your constituency and talk to them about the things that matter to them. We have a responsibility. In your RCW, it says advise the governor. Well, next year will be Governor Ferguson's first budget. The budget we got in 25 was His Excellency Governor Inslee's budget, and that budget has carried over. Governor Ferguson made some tweaks to the supplemental, but let's just be transparent. It really wasn't his budget. Next year, guys, it is his. And so if there are cuts to things that you feel will be detrimental to the Black Male Achievement Cap, if there are cuts to things that you feel are detrimental to education, I'll give you guys an example. Just being in the spirit of transparency, we represent the Office of Equity. They were slated for a 7% cut. Now, no one asked us to do it, but we do what we do. We got in with budget negotiators, negotiated to not have that cut. We can't achieve equity and do Black stuff if you're cutting budgets. If we had seen a cut to your budget, we love Mr. Prince, but we probably would have just skipped right over and said, hey, we don't want that cut to happen. Because, guys, we have the ability to influence budget writers. And if you're cutting budgets, then it makes it difficult for Black and brown people to do their work. So we prevented a cut to the Office of Equity. We took a look at other agencies where we do Black things and Black work and sat down with the budget writers and said, let's talk about that one. We have the ability to do that. And we like to do it outside of you all, because that's not something that you all are supposed to do, but as community advocates, it's something that we can do. So I say start looking at it and talking about it as a commission. I'd imagine that you guys want to protect things like the Tubman Center. I imagine that you guys want to protect things like Black male youth sports, right? Things that touch on mental health. And so as the governor's thinking about his budget, I'd say you're in a perfect position to advise him on those things.
Awesome. Thank you. And if I could, well, I'll yield the time to Mr. Chair, but thank you for the feedback, and I'll see you on Monday, hopefully.
Yes.
Vice Chair Bailey, if you had any other questions, go ahead.
Opportunity for a sidebar. So I feel like our speaker has generated some ideas, and I'd love to discuss those with you and Director Prince offline.
Okay, got it. Commissioner Estes, did you have something?
No, I was just, confirming that as education's been hit really hard. And with the DEI stuff and having to change scholarships, different things here in the state of Washington, different funding mechanisms, it's no longer the opportunity to go out and talk about getting someone of color. You see that kind of fading away in some ways. And so it's really hit academic education pretty hard. And hopefully we'll start rebounding and turning around here soon.
Thank you, Commissioner Estes. Any other commissioner questions for Paula?
Mr. Chair, I have one brief one.
Yep.
Paula, can you explain to the commissioners who may not know what the WBBA is and what you all do?
Absolutely. So for you guys, after Mr. Floyd was killed in 2020, we brought together, at the time it was both of the Urban Leagues, Tabor 100 and Burbar Place, a group of Black nonprofits, and said, we need to utilize our voices and be a safe place, but we need to do this beyond when somebody is killed by police, right? You'll have Black Lives Matter, and you had all those folks for that. We've grown to a coalition of almost 100 community-based organizations that we work with today in just 6 years. And what we've created is we create a 5-year rolling agenda, and my team's on. I've got Aaron and Victor on. Well, we achieve every year no less than 98% of that agenda for community, being things like CRP, being things like reparations. But what we've done is make the community advocate in a way that is useful and effective with a unified voice. So we are not having an Eastern Washington organization advocate against a Seattle-based organization that takes money from Snohomish or Pierce County. Working with folks like Mr. Prince, we've taught people that you're stronger together, that the commission is a safe place and a good place that does good work, and we should never be advocating against our own African-American commission, and we should be working with it. And so, but there are things that we understand in your position that you all can't do. So these meetings help us to hear your voice. And like we said, whether it's a budget cut or things you need, we can go and we can amplify that because we have the ability to bring 100 community-based organizations and CEOs that are well respected to get that result, which is, Mr. Prince, where the desire to have the LATs restored came from. It came from our conversations that we were having with the chair. And we realized that we couldn't continue the community reinvestment program without returning community trust. So when we hear those things, we are an advocacy coalition that can go out and act upon it. And then we come back to you like we're doing today with the accountability and to say, did we do the things that you entrusted us to do? Codified reparations, codified CRP, making sure that we're doing the things with housing, right? Made sure that the governor's going to backfill the Medicaid cuts, right? Making sure that we say those things, and then we have to come back and be accountable to the Black community, which we look forward to them. If we don't do something right, we want you guys to hold us accountable. That's how partnerships work. So that's what we do. We are a coalition of community-based, and they're not all Black. There are Black organizations, Latino organizations, Indigenous organizations. The reason we chose the name Build Back Black is because it's very simple. When the Black community does well, all other communities do better.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure for you to come and present and talk about the session. If there's no other questions.
Vice Chair Bailey has his hand up.
Oh, there you go. Vice Chair Bailey?
Yeah, more of a recommendation, I think, as we exit session. I do think it's a beautiful and timely opportunity to maybe connect with some of our local government partners to talk about some of the policy impacts and to talk about legislation. I'm looking at the attendee list, and I see Director Mitchell from City of Seattle, and recognizing that she has the opportunity to convene the Mayor's Council on African American elders. I think as we enter into the summer months, maybe finding ways to connect with those entities, gain some insight into one, just the impact, but two, what do we as a commission need to advocate for moving forward, recognizing that advocacy is more education in our role. But perhaps we can arrive at some type of legislative agenda over the summer to kind of continue the conversation from this past legislative session. So more so an idea, but we'd love to talk with you and Director Prince offline about that.
And I'll say this, Chair Bailey, our city council president for the city of Seattle is Hollins. She's African American. She will convene a Black Budget Day. We've reached out to
lovely.
to our new county executive, Gramai, to do the same thing with council president. So we will be inviting you guys to those things. And so I think it would be helpful, to have you guys there and listening and advising, but also being able to go back and to report out that this is the type of stuff that you all are doing. So I think meeting with local councils, meeting with your local mayors, those things, just being dialed in. The budget deficit can't just all be solved at the state level. Our team's been meeting with Senator Cantwell, Senator Murray. We had Adam Smith at the Tabor office last week. We're going to have him back out at the Urban League. So meeting with your congressional folks, because it's a three-pronged approach, right? It is local, it is state, it is federal. We're not going to solve the Black problems by thinking the state can solve all the budget issues or the commission can solve all the budget issues. But if you bring all the resources together, we should be able to bring enough resources to communities, say you're being heard. And we have wonderful delegations on the state and federal level. We just need to engage them.
Awesome. I do have a question about a particular bill that I thought I was tracking throughout the session. I know that there's a lot of speculation and accusations around fraud for certain BIPOC-led organizations. And I think at a federal level, there's been this interest in looking at some of these immigrant and refugee-led organizations that get Medicaid or Medicare funding. I think there was a bill this past session that would proactively initiate some audits, not to further impose administrative burden on our providers, but to proactively say, hey, we've already checked, we've done our due diligence. If the federal government wants to do anything additional, please know that we've already checked the box. Are you familiar with that legislation by any chance?
Yes,
Okay.
sir, I am, Mr. Vice President, and it did not pass, and I'll just make this very succinctly and quickly. There was uniform condemnation across the caucuses that felt arbitrary, capricious, and slightly racist. What we know is those organizations already go through a lot of audits with the state auditor's office, Pat McCarthy. The attorney general has some oversight. It depends on the grant, right? And I don't besmirch the person that brought it. He just didn't know. If you've ever had a grant from the city or these folks, the amount of reporting, auditing, and look back. So what we decided was we put that bill down because we don't want to create more systemic and structural barriers where there needs to be technical assistance in education. And I think you can do that through this organization if it's funded. You can do this through partner organizations, CBOs, and community. And so I think what you'll see with the outcome of a lot of these audits is that there was not grifting or misconduct as alleged, as much as there was just a need for more technical assistance. And we have to make sure that people know what you can and can't do, and that is written into their contracts. But you're not going to find that Blacks and Africans or people of the diaspora are out here just misappropriating money. I have been in close communication with the Attorney General's office and the auditor's office, and I can tell you that is not going to be the finding. So I think we wanted to move us, and we did this in the CRP conversation, move us away from the notion that Black and brown people steal. No, sometimes they just need more technical assistance. But people of all colors and iterations can steal. This isn't a Black and brown thing.
Awesome. Thank you. And I appreciate you sharing that as well.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Any other questions for Paula? All right, thank you, Paula. Always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
You too. We are a bit early, but it appears that most of the team is here from Truclusion to discuss the Charles Mitchell, George Washington Bush study on reparative action. Is that the case?
That is correct.
So with that regard, let's go ahead and jump in, and let's have our team who submitted a fantastic proposal to do this reparations study, talk us through their process, and we get a chance to meet you all. So that's the biggest part of this. So let's jump in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe. So glad to be here. I'll go ahead and share my screen so we can get into this presentation, but most of our team is here and we're very excited to be in this meeting today. So first things first, I just want to say my name is Dr. Ashley Gardner. I am one of the 4 owners of TrueClusion, and I serve as the project principal for the Charles Mitchell and George Washington Bush Study on Reparative Action. And I'm very excited to walk you all through our presentation today. And what it looks like is that first things first, I will be discussing our project team, but more so our work structure. Then I will discuss our work plan, followed by describing the ways we intend to engage the community, and then end with our team answering some questions and engaging in some dialogue. So my hope is that at the end of this, you all will have a clear understanding of our strategic approach to completing this work. So starting with our project team, which is really broken out into 4 different work groups. And so in addition to being the project principal, I also lead our research team, which has 2 buckets: community research and community research and historical research, which is really gathering archival data our policy and evaluation team will need for the recommendations. And so we have 7 universities across the state supporting our research pursuits. So I really want to start with what I'm heading. Then we have our evaluation and policy team led by Marvin Slaughter and Dr. Kramer. I know Dr. Kramer's here today. Dr. Kramer, do you want to introduce, just unmute yourself, say, hey, people know that you're here?
Hello, thank you. Yes, my name is Thomas Kramer. I'm an associate professor at the University of Connecticut and very excited to be part of TrueClusion and the research project.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Kramer. Then Marvin Slaughter, he's going to be here shortly. Then a key pillar of our work is community engagement. And Ariel Davis, our community engagement specialist, will be leading many of those efforts. She is also here today. Ariel, did you want to say hey?
Hey, my name is Ariel Davis. Lovely to meet you all. I'm super excited to work with TrueClusion on this research project. It's going to be amazing. And I look forward to connecting with community in regards to this body of work. So nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Ariel. And in a few slides, I will be discussing some of our community engagement strategies and plans a little bit more in depth. And then we also have Micah Anders, who is our genealogy lead, who is here. Micah, would you like to say hello?
Hey, y'all. I'm Micah Anders. I live in Minnesota. I used to live in Washington State as well. And this work is near and dear to my heart, and I'm really excited to do this work with this project.
Thanks, Micah. So our genealogy team is really carrying out 2 primary functions here. First, really outlining the protocols for verification of lineage-related qualifications for those who will be receiving reparations. And then secondly, they are going to conduct case studies, educating community members on how to explore their lineage, and will demonstrate what the process could look like in Washington State. And so again, these are our 4 work groups. And so when thinking about our work plan, which is our plan for this project, it's also structured by those work groups, but it's also structured by phases. So if you look at this plan, these little cute lines really indicates our phases. And so phase 1 started in February and ends in April. Phase 2 is from May and will end in October. And phase 3 is from November 2026 to May 2027. And so I'm going to briefly discuss our work according to these phases and these work streams. So I'll begin with talking about what's happening now in phase 1, our current phase, very, very exciting. So the historical research team is compiling the historical data our evaluation and policy team will need to ultimately develop the recommendations. Moving on to community research, like I mentioned earlier, gathering community insights is really key to this process. And when I say community, I mean Washingtonians that are likely to be descendants of victims of United States chattel slavery. And our project plan has various ways the community can be involved in this work, with many being through our research. So the first way the community will be involved in the research process is through a survey focused on understanding the community's perceptions and preferences of reparations. And this form of engagement is incredibly important to this entire project because these insights will inform our evaluation and policy team's recommendations. So to prepare for this survey to launch on April 10th, The community research team developed the survey, achieved institutional review board approval to conduct this research, and with the help of Ariel Davis, our community engagement specialist, our next step is launching our community engagement campaign and hard launching that survey April 10th. So the survey will be open from April to August. Okay, moving on to the evaluation and policy work stream or team. They identified historical research items they need the historical research team to complete and collect, and they are developing their frameworks. And then Micah and her genealogy team are doing preliminary genealogical research. So moving on to phase 2, again, which is from May to October. So the historical research team will largely be analyzing the historical data collected from phase 1 and gathering follow-up items our evaluation and policy team will need. The community research team will be finishing up data collection via that survey and analyzing the survey data. Additionally, we will be offering and facilitating another form of community engagement by way of listening sessions over the summer. And this is where we will be looking for community organizations to host listening sessions, whether in person or virtual, where a member of the research team, AKA likely me, will come and present our findings from the survey and gather more community insight to further inform our recommendations. We will also open up our applications for community members to join our community advisory board, which I will talk about more in a little bit, but those applications will open up over the summer as well. Okay, moving on to the evaluation and policy team. At this point, the evaluation and policy team will have the historical data they need, various forms of community insights by way of surveys and listening sessions. So they will develop a draft policy recommendation by which they'll be submitting that interim report on November 1st. Okay, moving on to the very final phase, November 2026 to May 2027. So the historical research team should be pretty much done by then, but if there's anything else they need to button up, they will. The community research team will provide another opportunity for community engagement through town halls, where the community will have the opportunity to review the draft policy, the interim report, and provide feedback and ask questions about it. And the information we take away from the community through these town halls will also inform the final recommendations for legislature, which will be the priority of the evaluation and policy team during this phase. Considering community insights, they will finalize the recommendations for legislature that will be submitted by May 7th, 2027. So throughout this entire process, it's important to mention that we will have virtual informational sessions monthly, the second Friday of each month, where we will provide updates on the project, answer questions, because for us, transparency is key to really building trust within the community. And we attempt to demonstrate that through our commitment to engaging the community. Hence, we have Ariel Davis, a Washingtonian, leading us in these efforts as we engage the community as authentic and transparent as possible. And so I know I just talked about throughout the project plan various ways we intend to engage the community, but I wanted to really streamline that on this slide and talk about it a bit more, because the goal here is to ensure accessible and meaningful community participation and engagement. And so, as I talked about a little bit earlier, our research serves as a primary mechanism for community engagement, beginning with that community reparation survey launching April 10th. I feel like I've said that about 20,000 times now. If you leave here, I hope at the very least, you know that the survey is launching April 10th. And it's designed to gather, again, insights on community members' perceptions and preferences for reparations, which will ultimately directly inform our recommendations. But what will also inform our recommendations is the community advisory panel, which will be established to support and to advise the policy and evaluation team throughout the development of multiple iterations of recommendations. Like I said earlier, that application will open over the summer. Next, during the summer of 2026, we will further engage the community by those listening sessions, conducting those listening sessions across the state. The goal is each county within the state. And during these sessions, our research team will present survey findings, again, AKA me. I will likely be the individual there, and gather additional feedback, which will inform the interim report. And so following the completion of that interim report, we will continue engagement through holding those town halls across the state early 2027, like I mentioned earlier. And these town halls, like I said, will provide community members the opportunity to provide direct feedback on the interim report, which will inform that final report. The plan also emphasizes a grassroots approach. And so this is what I haven't talked about yet, because we intend to have some of our team members and interns have a presence at community events across the state during the summer of 2026. And these efforts are really intended to raise awareness of the research, encourage survey participation, and invite community members to deeper forms of engagement. Because we already have a community interest form open for community members to tell us how they would like to be involved. And we launched this form during our first of many monthly informational meetings that occurred a week ago, last Friday. And these monthly sessions really serve to keep community members informed and connected to the project. We also have a mailing list where updates will be shared, and we will be establishing ourselves on social media really soon to further engage the community. So collectively, these strategies are really designed to foster meaningful participation, build relationships, and ensure that community voices are actively heard, respected, and incorporated throughout the process. So we are just getting our community outreach started, but I'm really happy to share that we already received interest to support the work for more than 20 organizations serving the Black community across Washington, including organizations in Vancouver, Tri-City, Yakima, and around the Puget Sound area. So we're really excited about that. So now, I've talked quite a bit. I want to pause and open it up for questions from you all, but before that, I kind of like to answer a question that hasn't been answered yet, which is, what do you see as your biggest challenge right now? And as the project principal, through my lens, I see our biggest challenges right now as funding and time. So considering we must provide the legislature with draft recommendations at the end of October, but if those recommendations aren't tight when they get reviewed in the next session, it could really set the work back a bit. So we need to have our recommendations relatively tight in October. And so from my lens, that means that we need to get our research done by the end of August. Now, King County, Pierce County, they have pledged money to help with the research, which is fantastic. But the challenge is we don't necessarily know when that money will become available. So let's say it becomes available in maybe May, then we'll have time to onboard more researchers. But if that is much later, that could somewhat present a challenge. But also in this time, we can't necessarily schedule extra community engagement things like listening sessions until we know we have the money to do them, which makes it hard on the groups that want to be involved and need to plan several months ahead and things of that nature. But nonetheless, our whole team is here. We are very committed to completing this work in excellence on time, and I'm confident it'll be great. But I do want to be upfront about the financial and time constraints as project principal that I'm seeing now. So let me stop talking and let me be quiet. Questions, you've heard from me a ton. My whole team is here. Please ask them questions. We're willing, able, and ready.
So I have a big question. If you can pull up your presentation again, and then go back to the chart where it talks about engagement.
Yes.
I like the fact that the project updates are going to be in information sessions and mailing lists and the social media. But I was hoping to see those same type of, outside of the mailing list, I was hoping to see the social media in the community insights and the grassroots engagement. Mm-hmm. And the big thing for me is, I think, like the in-person surveys, the town halls, and the listening sessions, whether they be hybrid or in person or both. Well, actually, that's what hybrid means. Sorry. One of the things I'm worried about is I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that our younger generation has a complete affinity for what reparations could really do for them. And I know a lot of people would like, with the historical trauma and really kind of understanding of what a reparative study could do, they will show up in droves in person. But it's trying to get to that younger generation, Gen Z, a little bit of the tail end of the millennial, but really, really getting those folks involved and engaged, for me, is going to be huge, because those voices are huge when it comes time to say, hey, legislator, we've given you these great recommendations, so now we love to see you do something.
Absolutely. And so thank you so much for that insight. I think that's incredible insight, especially for Ariel. And I think that a part of that will be within our social media strategy, but then also I've kind of been toying with the idea of having informational sessions specifically for specific groups, really. So informational, we have monthly informational sessions, but outside of that, have specific sessions to educate younger generations and things like that. So thank you for letting me know. And we will continue to strategize about that, because that you're correct. That is very important.
And I was also thinking too, I've seen some engagements now where to make sure that like the younger generation does get a chance to engage. Typically, they don't want to like spend a whole bunch of time filling out a survey. Hey, I'm not in the younger generation, and I don't want to fill out a survey. So if there's a way that we can do the video, I've seen where video and text have been like exciting ways and workable ways to actually get the younger generation engaged. I would hope that those would be part of it too.
Absolutely. I don't necessarily want to speak for Ariel, but I know we have a system for text that we will be implementing texting. We have talked about, pre-recorded videos by way of just having resources for people to just easily access. Because again, I'm in a generation where I don't want to read, I don't want to be in a webinar for forever or things like that. But if I could just have a one pager that can explain to me, hey, what can reparations do for me? I think that that's actually something that we've been considering. So thank you for bringing that up, and I will add that as priority.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, and Dr. G, if I can just jump in. It's really important for us to create a community engagement strategy that reaches every generation. It's very important for us to do that. So be rest assured that that social media aspect of this strategy has definitely been implemented into the work, considered, talked about, especially the platforms in which we engage different generations. We know Facebook for some, Instagram for others, TikTok for some groups. So Dr. G already knows she's going to be on video. We're going to be doing some fun activities online and really making sure that we create some momentum around this. And even if the engagement is even looked at in a passive way, we want to make sure that everybody's informed. So we definitely have some really cool ideas coming down the pipeline.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions from other commissioners? Don't be shy, because I've heard your questions before the Truclusion got on the call. So there we go. Vice Chair Bailey.
Hey, and good afternoon, and thank you. Thank you for taking on this important topic, this important conversation. And I think what we're doing here within Washington will also be a bit of a blueprint for other jurisdictions that want to do something similar. So if nothing else, thank you for helping to create history. General question, and you kind of spoke to this during your presentation, but for those calling in and for those who get access to this later in the week or the month, if a community member came to you and said, how can I be involved? What answer would you give? And then what answer should we give as a commission to help further interest and support?
That's a great question. So for you, I would say, hey, first things first, we have a community interest form for them to tell us how they would like to be involved. And so, yes, we have various ways people can be involved. We talked about the surveys, listening sessions, all of that. But then we also have a section to say, hey, what ideas do you have? How do you want to be involved? And so, I would say list all those things that I mentioned, but also we have this interest form. It's like, hey, I'll send you an interest form and you can just complete it there. And so that's really how we've been kind of intaking and streamlining the vast interest across the state. That answer everything? I'm sorry. I'm kind of efficient in my words. Okay, great.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Could I just say, Ashley, I love your energy and excitement about this work. I didn't know what the proposal was amazing. I didn't know what to expect. I did a whole bunch of research about who you are, but man, just the way you are engaging and having this conversation today, and I can see the excitement, and I'm just, my heart is full right now knowing that this is in your hands.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. I have to give credit to my team. My team is incredible. Once we get into the work and you hear from them, they have just as much energy and just excitement as me. And so as the representative, it definitely trickles down. So thank you, Joe. I really do appreciate that. We're really excited.
Any other questions? We have some people being shy, but don't worry. They will talk to you offline.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Ed.
No question, but thank you for the community outreach forum you guys did last week. I thought it was great. I couldn't get my computer to work, but I was on the phone, but I felt like it was a good back and forth with folks, and you guys answered some very important questions that the community had, and looking forward to the one that you guys do next month. But thank you for getting that ball rolling early.
Thank you so much, Ed. And if any of you all still have questions, about the work that maybe don't come to you now, just ask Ed. Ed will get into me and we'll send over an answer. We're just here to be a resource and just provide as much clarity as possible.
Excellent.
I see Michael has a hand raised.
Yeah, general question for Director Prince. Those meetings, are those posted on our website for people to find?
No,
Okay.
but I can get them on there, but they're not, no.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right, and I guess lastly, Ashley, you do know about, I'm sorry, point of order, Dr. Gardner. You do know that we have an advisory committee that's part of the commission that will be meeting with you on a rhythm that we need to set for the future. But that's one of the places where I think we'll be engaging with you a lot too, with some other community leaders and stakeholders.
Awesome, for sure. Yep, just let me know.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, we'll work with Commerce to have them get that going again.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner and team.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner.
Thank you. Great meeting you all. Good seeing Charlotte and Ed again.
All right. We are early.
We are early. You want to go back and approve the minutes?
Yes, we'd love to do that. So let's go back in time to 1:03 p.m. and let's discuss. I'm kidding. Did folks get a chance to actually read the previous minutes? And if so, we can go ahead and jump to a vote to approve those minutes. I'm not seeing anybody saying that we need to wait and read them. So I like to put on the table a motion to approve the previous minutes.
Second.
A question before we go. Did we approve the November meeting minutes at our last meeting? There was some confusion around that. I couldn't remember if we did because I know
I thought we did.
I thought we did as well.
But because I know some folks, we did have a person show up late in that session too. I thought we went back and approved, but maybe we didn't. Charlotte, you're saying no?
I'm not sure. We'd have to go back to the auto recording, and that hasn't been done. So, could we, if it's easier, could we, Mr. Chair, could we, just for procedural and to make sure we are in compliance with the auditor?
And that's which months? That's
November.
November. Okay. So could I get a motion to approve November and our last meeting's minutes?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
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 The ayes have it. All right. Thank you, everybody. And we can now, Ed, we can jump to public comment.
Yes, we have 2 minutes per public commenter. If anyone wants to offer public comment, please raise your hand. And I will call on you. Like I said, you'll have 2 minutes. I'm not seeing anyone raising their hand, sir. Oh, one person. Maja Smith. Hold on, let me get my timer situated. Give me 1 second. Let me share my screen. Now I got it. Okay. And there we go. All right. Maja, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I was hoping someone would go before me so I can have more time to get my thoughts together. But what come to top of mind for me would be around the conversation with the reparations. I really appreciate it because I've been hearing about the report or the firm. So this was really great to get to see the presentation. And what I'm hearing is that they'll be coming back monthly to share updates. I guess what my question is, and if my understanding is correct, is that the Commission on African American Affairs is kind of overseeing the firm moving this forward. So that's my first question. And if that is the case, because I'm hearing the feedback that you're offering, would there be more opportunities for community members? Because I noticed she said the one Washingtonian on their team, but there's been a lot of feedback and gathering of information that's been happening for a couple of years, if not more intensely a couple of years, but definitely before that, to see how that would be a way to incorporate or having folks on the advisory so that they're not duplicating work that's already happened. So hope that is a good question for you.
No, thank you. Mr. Chair, can I answer? Go ahead and answer that.
Yes.
So let me stop sharing my screen so I can see. We are working with them in conjunction with the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce is really overseeing them because they're the contractor. We are working in, I can't even remember the phrase that was used in the proviso, but we're working in conjunction with the Department of Commerce. We're consulting with the Department of Commerce and working with them with Truclusion. So in all honesty, the Department of Commerce is the one who is overseeing them, but we're consulting.
There is one thing I'd like to bring, and I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it. Is it Maja?
Oh, because you can hear me still? Emaja, yes.
Emaja, I'm sorry.
Thinking it was all.
So Emaja, we do have stakeholders from the community that are on that advisory that are also a part of providing feedback to Truclusion as they are doing their work. So it's that advisory. It's not just the commission. There's a separate advisory. It's a sub-team of the commission that is providing that with some stakeholders from community that have been deep in the work. And then they will be having these engagements across the state and in community where they'll be getting feedback and those things from community themselves as well. So I think there's two spaces where that's happening, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. That's really my only question.
Thank you, Maja. Okay, I'm waiting to see any additional raised hands. All right, Mr. Chair.
All right. Well, with that said, I know we don't have to vote for it, but
No, we don't.
I would say going once, going twice.
Hold on. You've got Commissioner Bailey likes to at the very end raise his hand. Like this is a trend for you.
Yep.
I just
Bailey.
I so much appreciate this time and space to
Lord, this could have been an email.
Well, I had to recenter us and always end us in relationship because the work that we do is hard. And I just want to make sure that we're taking time to check on people, not just commissioners, but staff as well. So before we officially close out and disappear into the weekend, would love for just kind of each person to perhaps come off mute and just confirm that you're still alive, confirm that you're doing okay, but also just to call upon one another. I know that many of us are continuing this work outside of the commission meetings, and that work too is hard. So this is an opportunity in space to say, hey, I need help with such and such, or maybe I'm meeting with this entity and would like additional support. Whatever that means for you, I just want to make sure we make time and space for that. I can be the person who calls on people. I don't know if that is my right as vice chair, but I welcome folks to just come off of mute and just share.
Yeah, please don't make Vice Chair Bailey have to call on you. Please volunteer willingly.
I do have the Jeopardy screen on my side, so I do in fact have a list in front of me, but just opening it up for other folks first. All right. Let's see. Director Prince, how you feeling?
I am feeling good, and I'm ready for the weekend to start.
Awesome. All right, Charlotte.
I am also doing well, anticipating a great weekend, and I'm gonna have to ask my boss for some time off here soon because I want to sleep in and do what I want to do. So I'm putting that out there. We'll talk about it.
You got to stay. You can't use any of your time off.
Rest is productive. I had someone tell me that earlier this week, and I greatly appreciate it. Kiana.
I'm sure you didn't take the advice though on the rest, right?
Mr. Vice Chair, you mean Stacy, because that's what her name says.
I know. Well, when I
you muted yourself.
Yeah.
There you go. It's me.
There you go.
I'm good. Just gearing up for another weekend full of sports for my too many kids. And other than that, I'm doing good. Thanks for checking in.
Awesome. All right, Commissioner Scott.
Yes, well, I am doing well. I'm actually on the road again. I was stationary for a bit, but then I had to go to pick up some items for Easter. I will say that everything is going okay. I did have a close friend of mine passed away a few weeks ago, and it was kind of a sad thing. She was at the tail end of law school, so it's been a blow to the community here in Pierce County. But otherwise, everything is doing great, and I'm always happy to be with you folks.
Corona, I'm sorry to hear that. You and her family are in my prayers.
Thank you.
And echo that, if you need just to talk, please know that we're here. So sorry for that. Commissioner Perkins.
Yeah, I echo. I'm so sorry for your loss too. I would say I am doing good. I'm kind of in the thick of my daughter's senior year, so it's just been kind of dealing with a little bit of her senioritis, but also trying to push her out of the nest a little bit, but hold her in the nest. And so it's been kind of emotional. But yeah, so pretty much that's occupying a lot of life, but I am doing well.
Commissioner Perkins, it'll soon be, man, could I really get her out of the nest? I'm kidding.
Oh no, it's starting to feel like that, trust.
Well, just like Vice Chair Bailey said, we're here if you need to talk. And I had to go through that, and I'm still kind of going through it now. So by all means, talk my ear off.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you
Yeah.
so very much.
Right. And Commissioner Estes.
Yes, Commissioner Scott, sorry to hear about your loss. I'm doing fine, just hanging in there and getting ready for spring break. So doing fine.
Awesome. Right. Well, last and certainly not least, Mr. Chair.
Well, number one, thank you for always doing this check-in at the end of our meetings. I think it's a good thing to see how people are doing and engage in this kind of discussion to make sure people are really doing okay. I'm doing okay. Like you said, the work continues, and it can be tough sometimes. But I really appreciate the support system that I have in you as the commission, and as well as my family. So.
Right. And also confirming that I am still alive, still okay, still doing horrible on responding to emails, and I will own that. New Year's resolution for 2026. But yeah, just thank you all. You folks are amazing. You are changing lives. And in case you haven't heard it this week, I do want to say thank you for the work that you do. So, Mr. Chair, hand it back to you and to Executive Prince.
And we are adjourned.
See you guys soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.